everyone, Phoenix Knight here. Welcome to the channel, and welcome to Mystical Munchies featuring the World of Warcraft New Flavors of Azeroth cookbook. We're starting off our brand new cookbook for this month with the appetizer, salty dog crackers. This is originally going to be the fried cheese dumplings, but my eyes kind of popped out of their head at the number of steps that the fried cheese dumplings would have required. So we're going to do these instead. As this cookbook had stories in it, let's tell this one. Salty dog crackers in Tiragard Sound. Tiragard Sound is blessed with a bounty of seafood, and I love spending days in Borealis Harbor watching the boats unload their catches or ship out their goods. During my time there, I discovered these snackable crackers that are every bit as tasty straight from the bowl as they are atop your favorite stew. By the way, that is from the perspective of Nomi, who's a Pandaren chef student that you meet in Pandaria. And these will actually go very nicely in the pot of chili I've got cooking in the crock pot. Yes, I know chili's more of a winter recipe, but I wanted to get some stuff that's going to freeze fairly well, especially with the 2009-10 hockey season replay getting ready to start in the next month or so. Anyway, I'm rambling on that front. The ingredients are waiting for us at the table, so let's move in that direction. In order to make this recipe, we are going to need a cup of all-purpose flour, a teaspoon each of salt, granulated sugar, and baking powder, plus we need a little more salt for sprinkling, 2 teaspoons of nutritional yeast, which was a pain in the neck to find at the grocery store this morning, but I was able to, 2 tablespoons of cold unsalted butter, and 1/3 of a cup of cold water. So let's move into the kitchen and start putting this recipe together. You'll probably hear buzzing and chirping as we go through this recipe. The buzzing, as usual, is my water bubbler. The chirping is the oven, because we've already got that heated up to 375, which is what you need for this recipe. So we've got our mixing bowl and shot. We're going to start off with the dry ingredients. First up, we'll take our cup of flour. That'll move toward the dishes. The flour can go back up. Then we want our teaspoon each of salt, sugar, and baking powder. Here's the salt. And of course, I trimmed my nails last night, so of course I can't get under the lip of the, there we go. I was going to say I can't get under the lip of the salt container, but we did it there. Oop, that's a little bit more than a teaspoon, but we'll deal with that. We'll also put the salt back to the side as we'll need that later. Then we've got our sugar. The sugar can go back up, and I actually need to go mute the... I'm going to go check on the computer real quick, because I just heard a notification. I want to make sure it's nothing I need to respond to urgently. It is not, and now we're all clear. Now I've muted the speaker, so now we've got our baking powder. We'll need that next. Flatten that down. The teaspoon can go toward the dishes. The baking powder can go back up. And then we want our 2 teaspoons of nutritional yeast. I was looking into whether or not I could use active dry yeast, because that's what I have. But it turns out the answer to that is no, I have to have nutritional yeast for this, because the two don't sub for each other. sure that gets sealed nice and tight. And we'll put that back up as well. Okay, so now we'll mix this up real quick. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to rub or cut in the butter until there are no large pieces remaining. So I'm going to start off, I've cut this up into pieces already. Trying to break this up a little bit. Then we'll add in the next piece of butter. Actually, I did get a, careful, there we go. I did actually get a, what's it called? I got a pastry cutter thing, I forget what it's called. One of these that I could probably use to help me break up the butter a little bit more. See if that gives me any help with cutting the butter, and actually it kind of is. Well, as soon as I say that, I've got a lot of the pieces of butter in there stuck in the teeth of this. Although actually it is helping a pretty good amount here. Okay. So now we want to gradually add in the water until we have a nice soft dough. So we'll get our third of a cup. I'm going to make sure the water is nice and cold. Easy does it. Okay. Add in a little bit of the water, then mix it up. Add in more of the water. Then add in the rest of the water. Somehow I'm not sure this is what they had in mind. This seems like it's not. It seems like that's not enough water for what they're going for here. I think I was expecting a little bit more of a. I was expecting a bit more solid. No, maybe solid isn't the word I want, but I wanted this to be holding together a bit more. So I think I was expecting. I was expecting it to be able to be holding together a little bit better. Because that still doesn't completely look like the consistency of the dough I want, although the next step may give me a little bit of help with that. So we are going to put this aside for about, so once I feel like it's going to be where it's going to be as good as it's going to get, which it probably is now, we're going to let the dough rest for about 20 minutes, and we'll come back after that 20 minutes is up. So I'm going to set a timer here, and then we'll come back to the dough in about 20 minutes. During the 20-minute interlude where I was letting the dough rest, I also lined a baking sheet with parchment paper So now we're going to see how the dough flattens out. I'm a little bit worried because it still seems a little bit flaky, but let's roll it out onto the counter and see if we can flatten this out and see if we can compress it together and eventually flatten it out. Because the idea here is I'm going to eventually want to roll this out into a sheet about a 1/4 inch thick. But first I need to see if it's going to actually hold together. So far it seems like it is holding together. It's still very much crumbly, though, which I don't think I can help that. I think there's a little bit too much of the... There's still quite a bit of flour in here that's falling out, but I think we are making at least a little bit of headway here. I think I was expecting the dough to be a little bit more solid than this, but I think we can probably roll this out. It seems like it's, well, actually if I roll it out, I mean flatten it out. Actually, let's go ahead and grab a rolling pin. See if I can use that to smooth it out. And now I'm trying to remember what I did with my rolling pin because I know I own one. Fine time for me to lose track of my rolling pin, that's for sure. Yeah. I still think it's in here somewhere. No. Now I can't close that utensil drawer. There we go. Wait a minute. Is it maybe in here? No. Oh, well. I know, like I said, I know I've got a rolling pin somewhere, but I've definitely picked a bad time to lose track of it. This is actually flattening out reasonably well, I would say. Seems like the dough is definitely holding... It seems like the dough is holding together at this point. So we'll continue to flatten it out. I'm not going to grab a ruler and measure everything out, though, in terms of how thick it's supposed to be. We'll just have to trust that that's probably fine, that this is probably fine as it is. So, at this point, I'm going to grab my aforementioned baking sheet that I've lined with parchment paper, which I'm going to keep just off shot. And now we're going to use a pizza cutter or another sharp knife to cut this up into, how big do they want these to be? 1/2 inch squares or a little bit larger if we prefer. So we'll just slice it about there. Make sure we get a little bit of separation in there. I think that'll probably do. Then we'll run that down here. Okay. Then we'll move these over to the baking sheet. Hopefully they'll move over somewhat intact. We also want to make sure that we've got as much room as we can have on... We want to make sure we've got as much room on the baking sheet as we can. And for the most part, these crackers do seem to be holding together pretty well, which I was a little bit worried about as the dough seemed like it wasn't wanting to hold together for me, but this seems like it's all working just fine. Oop. And as soon as I say that, we'll flatten that one down. Okay. We're going to be hearing the oven beep here momentarily for the chicken that I've got baking in the oven as well. Hopefully I can get this in before that timer goes off. Looks like I will be able to. So now we're going to put that in for about 15 minutes until they're lightly golden. So let me get these in. I'll move the camera just slightly. Carefully without burning my hand. There we go. And you probably heard the last minute of the oven timer start, but now we'll come back to the crackers in about 15 minutes. Here's our first look at the crackers as they came out of the oven. I gave them a little bit of extra time in the oven because I didn't like how they looked at the 15-minute mark, and I gave them some time to cool so they'd be easier to handle. Now we're going to plate a couple of these, and then I'll meet you guys over at my desk for the taste test. I've got a few of the crackers right here off shot. As I was prepping them, I was worried about how solid they were going to be because they were still falling apart as I was mixing them together. With the extra stuff I was doing now and feeling them on the plate, now I'm worried they might be a little bit too solid for what I'm looking for, but the only way to find out is to give them a taste and see what I think. So, here we go. I think my paranoia about how solid these were was largely unfounded, and I'm actually very happy with how these turned out. Maybe a little bit more salt in there just to give that distinct salty taste that I'm used to crackers having. But otherwise, very happy with how these turned out, and I'll be curious about how they work in the chili that I'm making in the crock pot. That is another episode of Mystical Munchies in the books. We've got a full weekend coming up on the channel. Later this afternoon, we're going to be going back to the hockey rink with a game of Inside the Crease hockey. I'll hold the teams in the season that we'll be using close to the vest on that. Tomorrow morning, we will be featuring Silent War 2.0 and a debut from Compass Games. We'll also have a game of Stratomatic hockey on the channel, but likewise, I'm going to hold that game close to the vest. There may be at least one more game on the channel. That'll probably be tonight. Stay tuned to the channel for that. As for Monday, we will be continuing Metal Gear Mondays with Metal Gear Solid, the board game from Simon. Next week, we will be making the side as we continue out of the World of Warcraft New Flavors of Azeroth cookbook, Eri Chibata. Thank you for watching the video. Please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Be sure to turn on notifications so you get my content. Be well, stay safe, take care of yourselves and your loved ones, and I'll be back with more videos in the future. Until then, take care everyone. Thank you.